Hey everyone, I'm Chris from Codecademy, and in this video we'll be talking about the power of Git and GitHub, and we'll see some examples of them being used in projects. So what is Git? Git is what we call a version control system, which allows you to track and manage changes to all types of files. It's primarily used for allowing groups of developers to work collaboratively on large software projects, but it can also be used by small teams or even solo developers. This is accomplished by managing the evolution of a set of files. Instead of managing each file individually and sharing it manually with your team, you can use a repository which contains a collection of files and version information for a project. This repository tracks all changes made to the files, building a history over time. Why use Git? Git is all about efficiency. One of the biggest advantages of Git is its branching capabilities. A branch is a way to keep a new feature or modification separate from the main project. It contains a different version of the files, which include any changes made after it was created from the project code. As soon as a repository is created, a main branch is generated. From there, one can work on code and track their work with commits. However, another member can also branch out from a specific point in the repository's history and work on their own code. This leaves the main project intact and isolated from any experimental code that someone's working on. When you use Git and GitHub together, you gain access to a whole array of collaboration abilities, like being able to put code up for review and even adding in automated testing. Git is not only great at managing different workspaces for team members, but it's also very efficient for reviewing completed code. Once code is ready for review, a user can create what's called a pull request. A pull request is essentially a dedicated forum for discussing proposed changes in a soon-to-be merged branch. Not only does this make it easier for project leads to keep track of changes, but it also lets developers initiate discussions around the work before integrating it with the rest of the codebase. Now what about GitHub? If you've heard about Git before, then you've likely also heard about GitHub. GitHub is a website and cloud-based service that hosts Git repositories. While Git is a command line tool, GitHub provides a web-based graphical interface with many of its own added features for easier navigation and collaboration with projects. Now let's take a look at how Git and GitHub can be used within a project. Let's start by looking at an example of a small Python project. We could be invited to work on this project by other team members. We could have been linked to this project online, or we could have even started this on our own. In any case, once we're on the GitHub page for the project, we click on Code and copy the cloning link. When installing Git, depending on the operating system, you could access it directly from the terminal or command prompt, but in this case, I'm going to use the Git Bash application which came with it. Now, to actually have the code from the repository on our system, we need to navigate to a location where we want the repository to be cloned to, using a combination of ls to list the directories and cd to change directories. Then we'll use the command git clone in the link we copied. So I'll use cd, documents, then ls to view the directories here, and I'll change directories again into projects. Now I'll use git clone and the link we copied, and hit enter. At this point it may ask you to log in, but once the command completes, we'll have a new directory in the system containing the contents of the repository. So we can use ls and see that git example exists, and we'll change directories into that. We can see the files within git example, which right now is message.py. Now we could directly modify the files and push changes to the repository but that's a bad practice, especially if other people are working on it at the same time. To avoid this, let's create a new branch. The command git checkout -b in the branch name creates a new branch and switches to it at the same time. So let's do that. Git checkout -b, and we'll call it print changes. Now that we're in the new branch, let's make a change to the message Python file. I'll use the nano editor and add in another print statement, but you don't have to use the terminal for that, and you can edit it in any other program or IDE. So I'll use nano message.py, and I'll add in another print statement. And let's also add a file to the repository. To do this, we first need to create a new file in the same directory as our cloned repository. So I'll use nano for that as well. And we can use ls to check that we have two files now. Now to add in the new file to the repository and to add in the changes that we made to message.py, we can either use the commands git add and the file name for each file, or we can use git add then the period character to add in all of the new files and changes. Now to confirm that the changes have been made to a branch and that the new file was added, we can use the command git status. And this will show that we've modified message.py, that we've created the new file, new_file.py, and they're ready to be committed. Let's save all these changes to our local branch using git commit, and we can provide a message describing the changes using -m and the message that we want. So git commit -m, and let's say added a new print statement to message.py and created new_file.py, and hit enter. And here it may ask for some credentials, which you can add in using the command that it provides. Otherwise, it will say that it committed successfully. Finally, now we've committed our changes, let's push the new branch to the repository and take a look at it on GitHub. The command for pushing a new branch is git push --set upstream origin and our branch name. So print changes. And here it will ask you to sign into GitHub. And once you sign in, it will complete the command and it will push the new branch to the remote repository. Now let's take a look at our new branch and see how to create a pull request for it in GitHub. When we head back to GitHub, we can see that notification came up saying that print changes had a recent push. And when we look at the actual repository, we can see that it still has the original file and our changes haven't been merged in yet. And that's because it's within that new branch. So we can click on branches and see that print changes was pushed to the remote repository. Now to actually merge the changes from the branch into the main branch of the project, it's a good practice to use pull requests. And these allow other team members to approve the changes before it gets merged in. So let's create a new one now. So we can go to the pull request tab and create a new pull request. And we can select the print changes branch, and it'll show all the changes that were made here. And we can create the new pull request. And we can leave a description of what we did. And it's usually good to write how to test, make sure it's working. So we need to test, make sure that the messages are printed, messages.py, and new underscore file.py. Thanks. And here we can add in reviewers, so we can link them to our project. And for now, I'm not going to add anyone in. And you can add in labels and mark which project is under, and customize this pull request. And we create the pull request by clicking the button. And there it is. Now we can link this to other developers, and we can add in reviewers. We can type in their email or their GitHub account and invite people to work on a project. So let's take a look at a large project with many team members working on multiple branches at the same time. So here's the Codecademy docs Git repository, and we can see it has lots of commits and 20 branches. And on the GitHub page, we can view the contents of the repository. We can also view the issues that have come up, which people can create new branches to address these changes. And we can also see all the pull requests. So if we click on the pull requests tab and scroll through, we can view all the open pull requests and some information about them. Let's go ahead and check one out. We can see the description and some checklists that follow the guidelines. And we can see that a review is required before it can be merged into the main branch. So let's go back, and we can also view all the closed pull requests. Now these can be closed because it was denied or they were successfully merged in. So let's take a look at one of these. We have the description and the types of changes described, and we can see that some other developers are taking a look and commenting on it, and they can make their own changes and add some modifications. And we can follow the trail all the way down to when it gets merged in. So there's a lot of great features in GitHub, and there's also additional stuff like the Actions tab, which we can add in automation, such as actions that occur once someone pushes to the remote repository, different workflows, and there's lots of other features like insights, which show statistics about the commits. As you go through the lessons, make sure to think about how Git and GitHub can be used to track changes and improve collaboration between team members. Thanks for watching the video, and good luck!